tuned into Freedom Live with me, Sucharita. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your time. And like I always begin by saying, all you gotta do, if you like what I do and what we do as a team here, you see that browser, see the link at the top of your browser window, just copy that, put it on your Facebook, put it on your Twitter, and I will send you cookies and love. And for my brand new episode, this is so exciting, so exciting. I have in the studio with me Goldspot!
Hi.
Siddharth Khosla and his team. Hey you guys, this is so exciting.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you very much.
The pleasure's all mine, pleasure's all mine. Let me begin by telling you that for your set last Friday in Pune, I couldn't make it because I was working. I got there on Saturday. I'm really bummed out about that. But my sister was there, and she was drunk texting me while you were performing, and she was crying, and she was like, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's made me cry."
Oh, that's very sweet. Are you sure she was watching Goldspot?
Yes,
Yeah,
she was. Like Friday in Hindi. Eh, mere pyare watan. This is beautiful. I have your old set list on in my inbox.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's very, very kind of you to say. Thanks.
How was it? How was the experience?
You know, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, this is our, I can't remember, our 4th or 5th trip to India.
Yeah.
Every time, you know, the audiences seem to just get bigger and bigger, and this was like one of the highlights of my career, honestly. It was just so exciting. We had like, I don't know, 7-something thousand kids singing along with the song. They knew the words to the songs, and that's, you know, I felt like I was living the dream up there. It was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I was here when you were touring last time when you came to Brewfrog Bombay. I was there in the audience. We were packed like sardines, and everyone was singing along to every single song.
It's just special, you know. I think we have the audiences in India are really special and dear to my heart. You know, I was born in the U.S., but I lived in India when I was younger.
Yeah.
And so it feels like I'm coming back home to perform, and it's the best kind of, you know, homecoming you could ever ask for.
Now, like, you've performed here 5 times, like you just said. Has the reaction from the audience kind of changed every time, or is it always everyone just knows all your songs, or has it gotten...
It changes, you know. I mean, I think that we've always had a really positive response from the audience. They've always been really, they've embraced the band and been really supportive. And every time we come, there's new music too. You know, there's new albums and new stuff we've done, and it seems like they've been following up on what we're doing. So it's really exciting when we come here and I play an album that came out last year, and in Pune, kids were singing the words to Evergreen Cassette and Abyss and Borderline and songs like that, and it was really exciting. Yeah.
Did you expect this when you first came and you performed in India, that you would have such a fan base in this country?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm still shocked every time we come that people actually show up to the shows. You know, I think it's just in me to, you know, I think I'm just so amazed by the fact that I'm able to write music that I believe in, and I have the good fortune to get up on a stage and people show up to actually listen to something that I've written. I mean, I think that idea, it's very humbling, you know, the fact that you're reminded every time that you're living your dream, you know. So that's what it makes me feel, honestly. And so yes, I mean, I don't take it for granted. I'm always just so honored and floored that people show up and sing along.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to watch you guys perform. You guys are you're delightful. Your music is delightful.
Oh, thank you very much. You're delightful.
Oh, thank you, Sid.
Yes.
Now, you know, well, apart from both of us, like, we're both delightful, but we have lots of things in common. We love Kishore Kumar.
Yeah.
We love Mohammad Rafi.
Love them.
We idolize the Beatles.
Absolutely.
Totally idolize the Beatles. Like, they're like gods to me. So when you were growing up, you know, of course you're Indian origin, but you were growing up there and then here and then you went back there. What was your musical influence growing up all those years?
Well, I was born in the States,
Yeah.
and at a very young age, I went back to India. You know, my parents moved from India to the U.S. in 1976, and a year after they arrived, I was born, and they were broke. You know, they had no money. They came to the U.S. with $8 in their pockets, and they had to actually send me back home to India to be with my grandparents, and I lived with my grandparents for a few years, and in that time, you know, I listened to whatever was playing there, you know, so, I mean, I probably was too young to even really fully understand what I was listening to, but, you know, it gets, you know, at a very formative age, you know, things get stuck in you, and they become part of you, and every summer after that, I live in India. When I lived in the U.S., I listened to whatever my parents had on their cassette tapes.
Yes.
They brought these old Kishore Kumar, Mohammad Rafi, Manna Dey, Lata Mangeshkar songs with them. You know, this is like they were bringing part of India they brought India with them on these tapes.
Yeah.
And that's how I grew up listening to those songs. And my mom somehow recognized one day that I could actually hold a tune and sing. And so she said, hey, I want you to learn this song. And she'd play me, one of the first songs I learned was a Mukesh song.
Yeah.
And Jana Kahan Gaye Within.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so she's like, here, sing the song and learn it. And that's how I learned how to sing. So early on, old Hindi music was a big part of who I was and am now.
And I believe the story behind Evergreen Cassette has something to do with you being away and your mom sending you cassettes. Now I know the story, but because I'm a stalker, so I know everything there is to know about you. But if you had to tell my Radio City listeners the story behind Evergreen Cassette.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, my parents came to the U.S. with $8 in their pockets, and they were pursuing a new life in a new country. They left their whole family behind in India. They had no family in the U.S. It was just the two of them alone, and they had just gotten married in India. And a year after they arrived, I was born, and my father and mother were both working full-time jobs and going to school, and they had no way to take care of me because they didn't have enough money. So what they did was they saved enough money over time to send me back to India. And at a very young age, I lived in Delhi with my grandparents.
Represent.
Represent. While my parents were, pursuing a life in the U.S. and trying to build a future for their family, so they could bring me back to the U.S. one day and actually have food to put on the table and take care of us, in the way that they always dreamed of. At the time, it was $24 a minute to make a long-distance phone call.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. No Vodafone, no Skype, FaceTime, none of that. And if they came to the U.S. with $8 in their pockets and the cost of making a phone call was 3 times their savings, you can imagine that they probably never made the phone calls. So instead, my mother and I and father and I communicated for that 2 or 3 years that I was in India through a cassette tape. And my mom would send me a cassette tape with her voice on it and tell me how much she loved me, and she would sing me old, these old evergreen hits from, those old records from Kishore Kumar, Mohammed Rafi, and sing me these songs. And we recorded over the same tape, back and forth, on the same tape for 2 years. And I wrote a song on the new album called Evergreen Cassette, honoring my mom and all the sacrifices that she and my dad made for me.
Right in the fields, man.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. How do you guys keep it together? Why don't you burst out crying every single time you writes a new song?
Yes. I don't know how. I mean, when I met his mom, and then it was at a show in New York, and he played the song, and I was standing next to her, and she was just like, I just can't believe how she held it together as good as she did, but she was definitely very choked up and very emotional, and she's like, this song is about me, and she'd tell me the whole stories, which is really cute. It's really sweet. His parents are the best, and it just was amazing for me to experience that and see that. And it kind of reminded me of my mother had come over from England. My dad was American. My mom came over from England at a very young age and stuff, and didn't have the kind of struggles they necessarily had, but it was still a struggle. And it was like, it reminded me of what my mom must have went through.
Yeah.
She didn't send me back to England or any of that stuff, but just in general, just dealing with the hardships and coming to a new country where your family is not. It made me think of that. It always makes me think of it when I hear that song. So
that's amazing. I mean, what a story! What a fantastic story, and what a tribute to your mom with that song.